King Charles's doctors just confirmed what royal insiders feared most, and it's exactly what Prince William has been dreading for months. With cancer treatment updates now public, the truth is out. The king isn't out of danger, and William may be forced to step up far sooner than expected. What the doctors confirmed: the reality of King Charles's illness. In early 2024, the world was stunned when King Charles was officially diagnosed with cancer, a word the palace had avoided for years. This was no small announcement. For a royal family known for keeping health matters locked behind palace walls, this confirmation was a clear break from the usual silence. Buckingham Palace later shocked everyone again when they announced that by 2026, Charles's treatment would be reduced, meaning doctors had seen signs of progress. But this wasn't a declaration of victory. Doctors reportedly advised strict schedule adjustments and ongoing monitoring, warning that while progress was good, the battle wasn't over. Sources from Hello magazine confirmed that the royal medical team had urged Charles to step back and let his body recover. Behind the scenes, the royal medical household was said to be guiding his calendar carefully, trimming events and removing unnecessary engagements. A post shared on Instagram hinted at this reduced workload, subtle changes the public wouldn't immediately notice, but insiders definitely did. Still, it's the images that have shaken people the most. New photos of the king, looking visibly thinner and sometimes frail, went viral fast. As reported by NSTARS, each public appearance becomes a storm of questions. Is he getting worse? Is he really okay? The answers, even with official statements, remain foggy. Doctors continue to insist on caution, but it's clear the king refuses to fully slow down. And that tension between what the doctors want and what the king believes he must do is exactly what pushes Prince William's deepest fears into the spotlight. As one insider put it bluntly, the crown waits for no one, even when there's cancer. That leads us directly to the next chapter: the emotional weight carried by the future king. Prince William's worst fear: losing his father. As if watching one loved one battle cancer wasn't painful enough, Prince William has been forced to see both his father and wife undergo treatment in the same year. 2024 was not just hard, it was devastating. According to Geo News, William has been emotionally torn between being a husband, a son, and an heir. Insiders revealed that William was consumed with fear and anxiety, especially watching King Charles continue taxing tours and high-pressure royal duties despite being ill. Those closest to William say he was terrified the king would push himself too far, too fast, and break down in public or worse, behind palace doors. But what haunted him wasn't just the idea of losing his father. It was the fear that if Charles's condition worsened, the weight of the monarchy would fall directly on his shoulders, whether he was ready or not. As reported by Zhang, William is already balancing royal work, public expectation, and his wife's recovery. The idea of stepping into the top role right now feels like a storm he's not prepared for. One palace source revealed that William even confronted his father, asking him to slow down and rest, not as the next in line, but as a son who just wants more time. But the king reportedly waved off the suggestion. He's stubborn, the insider said. He still believes duty comes first. Sky News Australia noted that William is well aware of what happens if Charles collapses under pressure. The crown won't wait, and neither will the public. That's the core of his fear. Not just losing a parent, but being thrust into power during one of the monarchy's most fragile moments. Or, as one royal watcher said, William's not afraid of being king. He's afraid of becoming one too soon. And behind palace doors, that fear only grew louder after one unforgettable private moment between father and son. The emotional moment behind closed doors. It wasn't a formal meeting. It wasn't about schedules, duties, or appearances. This was a private plea, hidden from cameras, and fueled by something far more raw than royal protocol: pure panic, pain, and desperation. Inside the stillness of palace walls, Prince William reportedly sat down with King Charles, not as the future king, but as a son terrified of watching his father break. The conversation, as reported by royal biographers and revealed in Jiang, was not political. It wasn't strategic. It was deeply, heartbreakingly personal. By that point, William had reached his breaking point. In the span of months, he had watched the two people closest to his heart: his beloved wife, Princess Catherine, and now his father, the king, both battle cancer, each facing their own grueling war. The weight was unbearable, and while the public only saw glimpses of the strain, those closest to William say he was drowning quietly beneath it all. According to insiders, William looked his father in the eyes and said what many around them were too afraid to. "It's too much. You need to stop. Please, just stop for now." He told Charles that the pressure, the speeches, the ceremonies, all of it could wait. But health, healing, and family time, that couldn't be delayed, not anymore. But the answer he got back was cold, heartbreaking, and final. The king reportedly denied the request. There was no argument, no shouting, just a silence that felt heavier than words. One palace aide described the moment as icy but filled with unspoken sadness. Charles, ever the monarch, ever the traditionalist, simply said he had no choice. His duty was to the people, not to himself, not even to his family. He thinks the monarchy needs him out there, even if it kills him, one insider shared. It was a sentence that echoed in William's mind long after the conversation ended. This wasn't just concern. This was real fear. The kind that comes when you know something is spiraling and no one's pulling the brakes. William feared not just losing his father, but watching him collapse in front of the entire world. He saw the cracks forming, the weight building. But there was nothing he could do to stop it. And something changed after that day. Observers began to notice William showing up more speeches, more engagements, more visibility, his voice steadier, his gaze more focused. It was subtle, but unmistakable. This wasn't just protocol. This was a son preparing for what now felt inevitable. He didn't take over, but he was clearly getting ready. And while Charles carried on, against doctors' advice, the unspoken tension between father and son began to rise. The king refusing to step back, the prince quietly stepping forward. Two futures moving in opposite directions, one clinging to the present, the other bracing for impact. And that tension, that unspoken conflict, it was only the beginning. Because next came a full-blown clash between medical reality and royal stubbornness, and that's where things really started to heat up. Doctor's orders versus king's defiance. It's the royal clash that no one wanted, but everyone feared. On one side, a team of high-level royal doctors urging rest, limits, and discipline. On the other, King Charles refusing to back down, even with cancer treatments still underway. According to Hello magazine, the medical team made it clear: the king must reduce his schedule and allow his body to recover. But while public appearances were trimmed, the king continued reading state papers, conducting private meetings, and handling duties most thought he'd delegate. Sources from Reality Tea revealed that Prince William even stepped in again, this time directly confronting the issue. "Father, you need to stop." But King Charles wasn't having it. In one particularly sharp moment, he reportedly replied, "Think again." That cold response said everything. The result? Tension. Not just between father and son, but between health and heritage, duty and survival. Behind palace doors, the two men stand on different sides of the same battlefield. William wants to protect his father. Charles wants to protect the crown. Observers say this conflict is creating a quiet storm in the royal household. "There's no winner here," one insider told reporters, "but someone's going to lose if things don't change." And as William wrestles with his father's refusal, another fear is quietly growing. Not just about illness, but what it could do to the legacy of the monarchy itself. That's where this story takes its next chilling turn. The hidden fear. Legacy interrupted. For Prince William, the fear of losing his father is only half the story. The other half, the one he doesn't say out loud, is far more terrifying. A royal transition happening too soon, under all the wrong conditions. Sky News Australia reported that if King Charles's health takes a serious turn, William's rise to the throne would be immediate. There would be no time for rest, no time for healing. The royal machinery would move fast, and it would fall entirely on William's shoulders. But here's the thing, he's not ready for that. Not because he lacks experience, but because of the public stage this would play out on. William fears what the world would see: a monarch physically failing, and a son forced to take control while still dealing with personal grief. "It's not just about the crown," one royal aide explained. "It's about how the crown looks during a crisis." The stability of the monarchy is everything. And if the transition appears rushed, chaotic, or emotionally unprepared, the damage could be long-lasting. William's worst-case scenario isn't just losing his father. It's losing control of the narrative and watching the institution he's meant to protect wobble under pressure. This is why he's already preparing. Advisors close to the palace say William is quietly building his vision of the monarchy, just in case. A future he hoped would come later, now feels closer than ever. "He didn't want it this way," said a source, "but history doesn't always ask what you want." And as this pressure builds behind the scenes, William is also carrying another devastating weight, one far more personal than any title or throne. The weight of two battles, Kate and Charles. 2024 wasn't just the year of a king's diagnosis. It was also the year Princess Catherine was forced to reveal her own private battle with cancer. For Prince William, it was like being hit by two emotional earthquakes at once. As one royal insider put it, he barely had time to breathe. The Economic Times confirmed that William had already been walking a tightrope between his royal role and his private pain, trying to support Kate through her surgery, recovery, and preventative chemotherapy. Then came King Charles's diagnosis, like a second blow, too soon after the first. Geo News reported that this double crisis put William under intense pressure, not just emotionally, but physically. He was seen juggling hospital visits, royal appearances, family duties, all while being stalked by headlines and speculation. "You could see it on his face," a staff member said. He was exhausted, but he wouldn't stop. Psychologists have publicly pointed out how this kind of emotional overload can impact decision-making and leadership. And in William's case, the burden was amplified by global expectations and the looming future of the crown. By the time Charles's health was confirmed publicly, William was already moving differently, speaking more like a monarch, appearing more often, stepping into the vacuum without needing to be asked. But behind the calm exterior was one growing, silent fear. Another loss. One more hospital call. One more devastating announcement. "Some days," said a royal source, "he wakes up wondering which call will come first, from his wife's doctors or his father's." And as the walls close in around him, the palace is doing everything it can to manage the storm. But is it enough? The answer lies in how the palace is spinning this crisis behind closed doors. The palace response: damage control. As public concern grew louder, Buckingham Palace knew they had to act, not just with words, but with precision. The official response? Keep it calm. Keep it controlled. Behind the scenes, though, it was clear. This was full-blown crisis management. In their statement, the palace announced that King Charles's treatment would be scaled back in 2026, calling it a positive development. The message from the News International sounded optimistic, almost too optimistic. But royal sources admitted this was a carefully chosen phrase, crafted to keep the public reassured while revealing very little. Notably, no details about the specific type of cancer were shared. That silence, as reported, has only deepened speculation. The palace won't say what it is, and that's made people assume the worst, one commentator noted. Even so, royal spokespeople insisted this was part of the king's personal journey, a moment to reflect, to heal, and to continue fulfilling his duties as much as he could. But doctors had reportedly warned otherwise, telling palace staff to be mindful of the king's limits. Despite the polished statements, the concern was real. And then came the photos. Images of a visibly thinner Charles, his posture weaker, his expression tired, started to appear online. According to NSTARS, these photos exploded across social media, prompting fears that the palace wasn't telling the whole story. Every time he stepped outside, cameras zoomed in. Was he okay? Was he struggling? The truth was clear. The palace was working overtime to hold the narrative together. But behind the royal curtains, William was already stepping forward, not waiting for a press release to guide him. Because while the palace was spinning the story, he was preparing for the next one. William's strategic positioning. While others were hoping for the best, Prince William was preparing for the worst. And he wasn't doing it with speeches or drama. He was doing it with strategy. As reported by thehealthsite.com, William has quietly taken on a larger share of royal duties, stepping in for the king more frequently and appearing at events solo, all while remaining calm, steady, and composed. This wasn't just helpful, it was deliberate. Insiders say he's shaping the monarchy's image early, not just for now, but for what's coming. His leadership tone is more modern, more personal, and very different from King Charles's traditional, formal style. He's not just filling a gap, one royal correspondent explained. He's building his version of the future monarchy. Behind the scenes, advisors close to William have reportedly been meeting regularly, preparing for succession plans and possible transition scenarios. Nothing is official, but everything is quietly in motion. Why the rush? Because William fears he won't get time to ease into the role. As thehealthsite.com pointed out, he knows that if the king's condition worsens, the change could come overnight. No fanfare, no warning. One source phrased it best: "He's not just getting ready to be king. He's getting ready to become king at the hardest possible moment." And with every new photo of the king, every vague palace update, that moment feels closer. But while William moves ahead with purpose, the world outside is spiraling, with royal fans panicking and conspiracy theories spreading. And that's exactly what comes next. Public reaction, fans and fears. As the king's health updates trickled out, the public reaction was anything but calm. From online forums to global headlines, people weren't just concerned, they were deeply afraid. The News International reported an immediate spike in royal watchers expressing doubt, grief, and frustration. Supporters flooded social media with prayers and well wishes for King Charles, while others demanded more transparency. They wanted details, real ones. The lack of them only made the silence louder. Then came the photos, again. When new images surfaced showing the king looking visibly frail, even longtime royal fans were rattled. According to NSTARS, the images circulated within hours, sparking trending hashtags and emotional debates. "He doesn't look well," one commenter wrote. "Why are they hiding how bad it really is?" In the streets of London, the conversation shifted. Citizens feared the slow unraveling of a monarch many had only just accepted. For some, Charles's reign still felt new, yet it now seemed to be heading toward a premature ending. The News International noted that Charles's health crisis created the kind of public fear the monarchy hasn't seen since Princess Diana's death. All of this was compounded by Prince William's increasing presence. As covered by the healthsite.com, royal watchers quickly noticed that William's solo engagements were no longer rare. They were routine, and they weren't just ceremonial. They looked like practice. This shift in energy, from Charles to William, didn't go unnoticed. It sparked media speculation, talk show debates, and tabloid frenzy. "The throne is already moving," one headline claimed, whether they admit it or not. And with the world watching so closely, one question remains. Is this still about cancer, or is it now about control of the crown? That's where the final fear truly begins. The real fear confirmed, not just health, the future of the monarchy. Underneath every headline, beyond the polished press statements and carefully framed photo ops, lies a fear Prince William has never spoken publicly, but one that sources say is etched into his every move. A fear that runs deeper than medical charts or public appearances. Because this isn't just about King Charles's illness anymore, it's about what comes next. According to reports from Sky News Australia, William's greatest fear is not the day his father passes, but the way that day might arrive. A sudden transition under emotional collapse. A monarchy thrust into the spotlight mid-crisis, with no time to breathe, no moment to plan, and no soft landing for a grieving family or an expectant nation. He's watched it happen in history. Now he sees the signs playing out again, only this time, he's the one waiting in the wings. King Charles's refusal to slow down despite a very real cancer battle has only intensified William's concern. The king continues with private meetings, paperwork, and ceremonial duties, even as doctors quietly push for rest. And while the public sees dignity and strength, William sees a ticking clock, moving faster than anyone wants to admit. He knows the monarchy doesn't pause for illness. There are no extensions, no rewrites, and when the moment comes, it will come fast. As reported by Reality Tea, the Prince of Wales is already working behind the scenes, mapping out succession contingencies, coordinating with advisors, and absorbing more public duties, all without making noise. One royal aide revealed, "The official handover might be years away, but the emotional handover? That's happening now." The fear isn't just personal, it's institutional. The real nightmare? A monarch who can no longer lead but refuses to step down. A royal family consumed by grief and duty at the same time. A public watching every movement, every word, every tremble. And in the center of it, Prince William, forced to lead a country before his heart is ready and before the nation has been prepared. In that scenario, he becomes king not with pride, but with pain. As Sky News Australia powerfully stated, this is not just about one man's health. This is about the survival of a dynasty. And that's the weight William quietly carries. The burden of the crown, passed not in ceremony, but in crisis. Because the fear now isn't just about losing a father. It's about what happens to the monarchy itself if the crown is passed in grief, not in strength. And for William, that is the fear no one dares say out loud. The doctors spoke. The truth is out. And now William must face the future, whether he's ready or not.